This episode of Teen Mom 2 starts off with Kale and Joe just getting back from the disaster of a reunion. Kale's proud of herself for staying calm, and for some reason her producer and Joe agreed. They even say they should change the name of the show to Adult Mom because of her or something. Are we watching the same show? Kaylin was not mature at all at the reunion. Yeah, Brianna was pretty bad, but there's no doubt in my mind that Kale was instigating. She talked loudly about Brianna and complained about her while they were in the same room. Not to mention she slammed doors on every person she came in contact with. Maybe everyone saw Janelle's drama and Kale just looked better in comparison to that dumpster fire. That's the only thing I can think of. Later, Kale discusses Javi very briefly. She just says, "I'm happy when Javi has a girlfriend because he finally leaves me alone. I never want to film with him again unless it involves Lincoln." And she smirks as if she's the one who has the final say on that and the decision is made. Jeremy is spending time with Addie. Halloween is tomorrow and Leah tells Jeremy to come by 5 o'clock if he wants to come trick-or-treating with the kids. She jokes like she doesn't like him there, but it almost feels like she's flirting a little bit. I suspect this is when they started hooking up again. When asked about the reunion, Leah says she feels the reunion was a shit show. People were fighting everywhere backstage, and she felt like she was on a Housewives show. Like Ferris said once, the only thing missing from this being a Housewives show is the rich husbands. Brianna plays video games with her kids in a carbonated mask. Javi is coming down to her this weekend to visit. Brianna says she has her guard up, even though he is a good boy. According to her, she's not used to these good boys. Back in Teen Mom 3, she was famous for saying, "I don't want no saint for a boyfriend," as she continued to date loser guys, so it seems like she's both not used to them and not interested in them either, so her motives with Javi are questionable. Chelsea talks about how she stopped birth control and is checking ovulation days with Cole, with Aubrey sitting right there on the couch cluelessly. The producer says, "Well, this is very exciting." Sure it is. Jace and Barbara have a little picnic while Janelle meets with Jace's therapist. The therapist said her and Jace need to connect more, and Janelle just blames her mom for getting in the middle of them. Therapist also wants more one-on-one sessions with David and him and Barb and Janelle. Of course, Janelle shifts the conversation back to her anger at her mom and says Barb will get jealous if her and Jace have one-on-one sessions. Javi is there with Brianna and Orlando. He feeds Stella and takes Nova inside a bounce house to jump around with her. It's a sweet moment between Javi and the kids, as he seems to be a good father figure. You can see Brianna on the side wondering how much free child care she can squeeze out of this guy before he realizes she's not attracted to him. Joe's family, who is Puerto Rican, hold a fundraiser to benefit victims of Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico. Kale's friend Dom comes along with her, and Kale, who is bisexual, is flirtatious with her. Kale even calls her daddy. Dom says Joe can call her daddy too, and he says he isn't comfortable with that. Leah is getting her kids ready for Halloween. Gracie and Allie are roughhousing in the hallway, and Gracie pushes down Allie to the floor. Leah has to call Corey on the phone to discipline her. It doesn't seem like she does a lot of the disciplining herself, but at least she followed through on the threat to call Corey. Another episode, another police call involving Janelle. This time, Janelle calls 911 and says Jace called her saying that Barb was hitting him. She says she could hear Barb saying to Jace, "Oh, you're gonna tell mommy that?" and then threatening him. They send law enforcement over to Barb's place to talk to Jace. Janelle also says that Barb thought she hung up the phone, and then in the background, Janelle heard Jace saying he wanted to live with Janelle, and that Barb said if he wanted to do that, he could leave and never come back. It seems like another one of Janelle's desperate attempts to make it look like she cares about Jace. But maybe he did say that, I don't know. Janelle probably lets him play video games and eat junk food all day, so maybe he does want to live there. Janelle almost seems happy that this is going on because she thinks it's a reason to take her mom back to court for custody. Chelsea is also going to court because she wants to move visitation with Aubrey to a visitation center instead of supervised by Adam's parents. She orders a skinny vanilla soy milk something white girl drink from Starbucks as she talks about how visitation has been going so far. Aubrey hasn't had any issues, and she's worried that might look to the court like they don't need to change things, but she says it's only because it's Adam's parents watching her. Adam himself is never actually there, and that's why there's been no problems. While getting ready for the fundraiser, Kale is calling all her friends daddy. She says that her friends father more than Chris Lopez, who for some reason isn't on Lex's birth certificate despite being at the birth. The fundraiser dance begins, and everyone has a really fun time. Before Javi takes Brianna out to dinner, he stops by their apartment. Brianna gives him chores to do around the house to earn it, and then bitter Brittany drops some spaghetti sauce on the floor, screams about it, and then jokes that Javi should clean it up. Roxanne then pulls him to the side and questions if he's really committed. I think Javi is getting a pretty good idea of life would be with these three, and it doesn't look very nice. Roxanne asks what would happen if their relationship went south, and he said they'd hopefully stay friends. He says he won't hurt her. Roxanne says she hopes not because Brianna is a good girl. A good girl who had 2 kids with loser boyfriends that she barely knew and fights with other girls, but a good girl nonetheless. Leah goes out for trick-or-treating, and Jeremy did make it there. This is actually the first time he celebrated Halloween with them. Leah says there was times he could have been there in the past that he could have came but chose not to, but they don't really fight about it, and they have a good time. Adam is taking Chelsea back to court to lower child support, but according to Chelsea, he always does this and then never shows up, so nothing ever happens. Much like her segments. The police went to Barb's house and contacted Janelle back about Jace. Apparently, he really did call her, but he admitted he was lying about Barb hitting him. Actually, what happened was Jace was having anger issues and throwing things around the house, and Barb chased him to go to his room. Barb says she is worried about Jace's future and just is trying to protect him. Javi and Brianna have their first date by themselves, no kids, no parents. And this is also probably Brianna's first date that was at a restaurant and not on someone's couch watching Netflix. She isn't used to all this classiness and tells Javi to let her know if he sees a nipple slip. He lets his eyes wander and says, "Hey, they look good." Then Javi starts telling Brianna why he's interested in her. He says, "I like that you don't rush into anything. You're doing everything yourself for your kids, and that is such an attractive quality. Your life just interests and fascinates me." She says she's guarded because of everything that happened in the past with her. I'm just wondering, did he even keep Brianna in mind when writing this little speech of his, or does he just say this to every girl? Because none of it is true. She doesn't rush into things? Really? She has a tattoo of her ex under her boob that broke up with her and then posted revenge porn of her on Twitter. That sounds pretty impulsive to me. Or how about the fact she had 2 babies, each of them with losers, and one of them after only a month of knowing the guy who she met at a club? Does everything herself? Well, the dads are no help, I'll give her that, but Brianna and Roxanne don't let her do too much alone. They help out a lot. Javi then asks, "Well, why are you interested in me, Brianna?" And she just says, well, I felt you after LA, I don't know." He accepts that lame answer, and they continue their dinner date. Kale and Dom are driving home, and then the producers text Kale asking if that's her girlfriend. They don't outright say it, but Kale's hand inching toward Dom's inner thigh while she's driving seems to say otherwise. And that's all for this episode of Teen Mom 2. Do you think Brianna was ever actually interested in Javi? And did the incident with Jace really happen like Janelle said it did? Leave a comment down below what you thought about this episode, and make sure to subscribe for Teen Mom recaps every week.